Welcome aboard again. We're doing an evening ride here at Train Mountain. And I think we're going to go down through the Klamath and Western, get onto the Serpentine, and it looks to me like we're already lined up for it. Let's just hit this button and make sure. Yeah, we're all set. We've got a green. Ring a little bell just for fun. It's hard to do it with one hand, but I do my best. Wave to the camera on the signal bridge. So that track could take you over to Grand Central Junction. You can go almost anywhere from that junction there. But this is kind of a shortcut down the Serpentine. We go over to the Klamath and Western, which is a separate railroad, but we're still allowed to run on it. They do tour trains within their own railroad on weekends. And we are fortunate enough to get trackage rights, so we're going to run over their territory. They have a fun display down here at their terminal or their depot. Full-size caboose and some switch stands and a concession stand. 100 feet to yard limit. On most railroads, yard limits have a restricted speed. You have to be able to stop within short of half the distance of vision, so you don't couple with an engine, a car. There's several other things that you're not supposed to hit. And if both trains can stop within half the distance, that means nobody's going to touch. Do a slow roll through here. There's nobody down here at all. There's a green block, so somebody derailed right there, but not us. There's a full-size speeder. Those are often used by maintenance of way crews to access parts of the line, and they can pull little trailers with tools on them. Full-size SP caboose and semaphores. There's the K&W diner. Oh, there's a big Shay. I haven't seen that one. I didn't realize they had some more privately owned stuff down here for the Triennial. Wow. That's pretty... Oh, it's not a Shay, it's a Heisler. That is pretty incredible. It's still got steam on it. Let's just zoom in for a second. That is pretty cool. Yeah. And a turntable there. This is the track shop. They have a bunch of tracks that lead out. They build the track, they load it on flat cars, then they bring it out for use on the railroad. They have a turntable here. Some of these tracks are pretty tight radius going in, so you can't really take big locomotives through there, but it's common to shove several flat cars back in there with used panels ready for rebuild or new ones coming out. There's another yard over here, and there's the camera car, the long boom on there. There's some guys that are taking some cool video out here with that. Now we're on our way out of the yard. We'll accelerate up this hill. Up here we have two options. We can stay on the K&W by bearing to the right at the next switch. Or if you get over on that track, you can even get up and over that bridge that we went under on the way in here. I'd point the camera that way, but the sun's too bright. We're gonna go left This will take us down through to Train Mountain at Blue Caboose. And we can choose to go up or down at Serpentine. I don't know if you can see it. There's a bridge way off in the distance there that you could go over going that way. And that would take you back up to Train Mountain property that way. Back to that Grand Central Junction where you could go down Panama or Serpentine. This way is kind of fun. It's a little more wilderness. They have some fun displays for the people that ride K&W to see along the side of the track. There's a shortcut loop, St. John Loop. You can take that right around back to Train Mountain, up on top. Teddy bear picnic. Looks like the bears have all gone to sleep, but you can imagine what goes on there. You can see on the track we have a steel outer rail and an aluminum inner rail. That's probably a cost-saving measure, and also that steel rail wears better. If you see worn piece of aluminum rail, the inside where the flange is, about where my finger is, will get worn so badly that it gets down to the web and there's not a lot of strength left there. Same thing happens on full-size steel rail. Oftentimes you hear the term curve-worn rail. That's what's happening. The flanges are rubbing and they're slowly machining away the head of that rail, and it gets a very thin profile. In some cases you can flip it around, use it in another spot because it's still got another good side, but if it gets too thin, it's done because there's not enough head left to support the weight of the train. And again, outer rail here is steel. And as you can imagine, same thing happens to the flanges on your train. And this is true for the full-size stuff too. If you go in a circle one way, that outer flange is going to wear. And even if you don't go in a circle, turning left and right, eventually it'll wear both flanges. On a steam locomotive, they have a tire that can be sweated on with heat onto the cast spoked wheel on the inside. That tire can be turned down and reprofiled to a certain extent, and once it gets to a certain thickness, it's condemned. It can't be used any further. It's not safe enough. So then you have to buy a new tire and profile it. You start all over again with bigger tires. And they have usually 2 or 3 different turnings in their lifetime, and then they start all over again. For people that own steam locomotives, they can understand the value of being able to turn a new tread on a tire. It can easily cost 50 grand or more, depending on the size and the material of the tires, to redo a steam locomotive. That's just one way that you can burn money with those things. Okay. Conductor is saying stop.
Are we going back to K&W?
I thought we were going to Train Mountain.
Well, you just switched it.
Oh, conductor has called me out. Yeah, I guess that's right. Anyway, I was thinking Train Mountain that way, but it's not. You can do that. Yeah. it would just send us uphill or we go back up. So my wife pointed out, if we were to take this right track, you've got two options. If you throw the next switch down there, it'll put you on the serpentine uphill at Train Mountain. If you throw that switch to the right, you stay in K&W and you circle back around. So, but we want to go down to the South Meadow. We're just entering into the signal circuit here. You can see the red light way down there on the overhead. That's protecting the traffic on the hill from us. So we're going to pay attention to that light. When it turns green or gives us a more favorable indication, we can go through. And as you can see, there's a train coming up the hill right now. So we can't just blow through that or we're going to cause a big wreck. And there are real consequences to that, even with these smaller trains. This is tonnage in motion. So we're going to stop short of the signal. And this might not be the only train. See, there's a following train. So we're going to come to a full stop, set the brakes, wait for them to get through. There we are. Highball. And I'm just going to look just in case. We can get stopped fast enough if something's coming our way, in case that signal were to fail. And we're off and running. We're at Blue Caboose. There's the namesake. Here's the motor pool. We'll reduce speed for the diamond. That does two things. It saves wear and tear on the diamond and it prepares us for the junction. We'll acknowledge their signal. They're letting us come through. We're going to take a look. No traffic that way. Thank you. That was very kind of them. They're letting the downhill train have the right of way. We've been on this line a few times before, but I'll keep it rolling just so you can see the whole trip. There's a potential fire entry for Train Mountain. That's normally blocked off, but if they needed to get heavy equipment in and out, that's a possibility. But they keep those cinder blocks there to prevent any unwanted access by somebody trying to ram the gate. Most of the time, those people aren't after the trains. They'd probably be after other stuff, the equipment. Here's our train crew. Myself and our conductor, Katie. And the weather right now is just perfect. Things warmed up and got a little nicer, so we're not freezing with gloves on. There's Carl's train. It's got a great Milwaukee Road caboose on the tail end. Rumor has it there's a journal pad sheep in there somewhere and a llama, but we can't see him right now. For those full-time railroaders who joined us here, hadn't seen the other parts, all of these switches can be run through trailing point movements. They're either variable point or spring switches. For an operation like this, it's essential because you have different levels of experience and you want to move traffic through efficiently. So to ask every brakeman to stop and jump off and reline a switch after they get through is not going to work on a railroad like this. We've got these remote switch stands here. You can throw it and that switch 40 feet away is aligned for the direction that we want to go. Just going to let people know we're going through this junction here. And we'll keep speed reduced for this diamond. We'll have another one up here. We do a long and a short just to get their attention. We'll do another one here. And nobody's coming, so we're good to go. For this meet, there's no dispatcher for the main line. It's kind of eyes and ears. You have to come to an agreement if you're coming to a junction. Just do the right thing. You see a heavy train with lots of tonnage, and we're a light train, we can easily stop and let them go through. These trains do have real tonnage. My train alone, we're at about 200, 250 pounds for the locomotive, plus my own weight, which is another 175. Each of my cars is about 75 pounds, plus the weight of any riders or luggage or anything else. So we add that up, we're probably pushing 1,000 pounds if we've got a couple riders and a full train. Some of these other trains, the locomotive itself is 1,000 pounds, and you add about 15 cars behind that, plus the riders. That's real tonnage, and that's worth consideration. These aren't just toys. They're just miniature trains, and there are expensive consequences and potentially injurious consequences for messing up. So it's something we take seriously. Same with full-size railroads. You might see a steam engine there having a good time in the locomotive, but it's all work. And for a lot of them, much of the job is second nature, but they still have to pay attention to everything. It's serious business. And a boiler of any size requires your attention because water is the thing that you must honor. Low water means either find a way to fill it back up or shut her down. We're almost at bottom of Serpentine. Got some pedestrians at a crossing, so we'll make a little noise here once we pass the whistle board. Lillyville. Looks like we got a steamer up ahead, so we're going to let them get out first. We'll slow down a little bit so they've got time to do their thing. We have to keep 2 mile posts back, which are not real miles. I think they're 220 feet apart. They're a scale subdivision of a mile. Looks like they just got themselves videotaped. And the switch they came through, we can just run right through because it's a variable point. They were taking water here at the water hose, which is not the best water from what I've been told. Last time I took water there without a filter, it clouded up my water glass. You could see little floaties in there. So there's that switch. I'll show you what happens. See how it flipped over at the last second? When our flanges hit it, it opens it right up. We're gonna let this pair get through with these battery-powered climaxes. And we're actually gonna go a different direction. We're going to throw this switch to the right. We're going to take the route over to the Rio Grande junction by the South Portal Tunnel. South portal of the tunnel. The junction's clear. In a previous video, we did some switching right here in this industrial spur with a steam locomotive. You can look at those from, I think it was last fall, we were down here doing the operations meet. Yuma siding. No, Yuma spur. Might have been a siding in the past. But on a little bit of a grade here. You really feel it with the steamer. You have to get out to the fire to maintain your steam. There's a cool tree. Look at that. If you're building a boat, that'd be great piece to have. .09% grade here. .67. The little signpost on the right indicates the mile post and the grade, and above that is the name of the route that you're on, the subdivision. So we're on Rio Grande milepost 9.3, which is a scale mile marker. Basically, it's a unique identification because we're not at 9.3 miles from anything here. But it lets them know where you're at if you have a breakdown or need assistance. And we have a green signal here. The one to the right applies to us. The one to the far right applies to the converging track. This switch stand serves the far switch right there. It is correctly lined for the route that we want to take. Lining it straight would take us up to the circle up there where we could decide to either go uphill or through the tunnel to the north side. Train Mountains uses some of these circles as large junctions to handle traffic, kind of like a one-way roundabout. You can see it goes all the way around. You could just take that indefinitely if you wanted to. You get bored after a while, but maybe that's something you want to do. But it gives you options. You can spin off at various spots around the circle. And if you make a mistake and miss it, you just keep going. That track goes to Fire Pit Corner, and those go up eventually to Hairpin Junction. You can get up to the Serpentine, or go up Hairpin and go through Panama Canal back to the top. Rio Grande is kind of a fun line because it winds down in order to lose elevation and get back down into the prairie here, or meadow. You don't want to take this curve too fast because sometimes there's people stopped at the bottom. And it's a pretty tight curve right here. Looks like they've done some pruning to improve visibility. Hear a steam whistle off in the distance. It's kind of fun during this event. You hear all kind of train noises going on. The chuffing of various size locomotive cylinders and steam whistles and diesel and all kinds of honking apparatuses. Apparati. Phillips. The appropriately labeled Phillips oil tanks. Fire extinguisher. Saanich. This remote is lined to the left, which would take us to the left, back over to Midway Circle. We want to go to the right. We're going to go to Lillyville. There's a mark in the gravel where somebody used the old foot brake to get stopped. Perfectly legal to do on this railroad. They probably missed the switch and wanted to back up and redirect. That looks like an old grade through there. In the old days, that probably connected differently. Then we got a big run up this hill. We're going to do an up and over, kind of like an HO train layout. We'll go over the track that we're going to pass through to Lillyville. There's Lillyville. Looking at the graveyard on the left. Swing around to the right here. There's the track that we will be on momentarily. Now we've tipped over the summit, reduced throttle a little bit, because the train's going to want to take off. With a long train, you have to time that just right. If you reduce the throttle too soon, you're going to stall on the hill because half of your train's still hanging on the other side. And if you reduce your throttle too late, you pick up too much speed, and then you have to set a lot of brakes going down the other side. For the little goose, though, it's much more forgiving. With our regenerative braking, we can get a hold of this pretty quickly. We got a little mini aspen grove here. Kind of nice. We're heading right over toward that orange Rio Grande caboose. And I think we get the benefit of a full-size real signal and bell up here, which is kind of cool. Picking up some speed, so we'll reduce throttle a little bit. We're into the crossing circuit. I see the lights on. They've disabled the bell. That caboose is open for tours. My wife Katie did some of the seat upholstery to restore the interior on that, including making up a really neat bed, but she used a really nice durable material like a naga hide that looks like bed sheets but is easily wiped down so you can get the dust off. There's a pump jack. Gramps. Now we're coming to an upgrade to bring up the throttle a little bit. If you imagine a steel ball on a steel plate, you tip that plate, the ball's just going to start rolling. And with a train, that's kind of how the handling works. On the downhill, it just takes off. And if you don't get a hold of it with some brakes, it's going to keep going. And on the uphill, it's going to come to a stop unless you increase throttle. So on hilly terrain, you're always making adjustments with the train, either setting brakes or increasing throttle. With the Goose, it's very easy because the throttle acts as both throttle and brake, depending on where you put it relative to your speed. If you set it below the speed you're running at, it goes into brake regeneration mode, charges up your battery. Lillyville. You need a break or are you good? Okay, let's, you want me to pull into the siding, the spur, and then we can walk over? Okay. We're gonna back into this spur here, take a walk around Lillyville. Looks like they've got some fresh trees planted and the livestock are out. This is pretty cool. All right, coming back. That's 3 toots for backing up. And we can leave this switch lined as is because it's a trailing point switch. And it's variable, so you can run through it in the other direction without hurting anything. I had a lot of comments from full-time railroaders on my first few videos. They're like, you're tearing that place up. They didn't realize that these are all designed that way. Okay, there we are. Full brakes. We'll turn off our key. Looks like our sheep has laid down for a nap, so let's set him back up. Take a walk around. And I'm looking at the distance between there and there. We're well beyond the foul zone, so we don't have to worry about getting clipped by another train. Well, that'll do it for another episode. Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit subscribe and stay tuned for the following episode where we do the tour of Lillyville and then head back up to the yard.